Praise the Lord, everybody. Well, I hope your week's been well. We come to you in the name that is above every name, and we are nervously excited to be here today. Episode 40, Robert, what is it, 44? 44, episode 44. You saw the title, and we're going to start on it in just a moment. But before I do, let me give you a disclaimer. I'm going to be giving a lot of disclaimers tonight, but I'm going to give you the staple one first. And that is, if you've not listened to episode 1, man, I know the title of this is going to want to get some clicks. I get it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But if you do not have a grasp at all on episode 1, this is going to be a lot of gibberish to you. But if you have a grasp on episode 1, this one right here is about to make a whole lot of sense, in perhaps a way a lot of people may not want it to make sense, but it is what it is. That's why we're here. For who the Son of Man sets free is free indeed. So cut it off, please, and go listen to episode 1. With that said, I am in the room. I am not just in the room with my brothers. I am in the room with multiple brothers and one of my sisters tonight. And we have a guest host and 3 other guests that are going to be joining us after we lay some groundwork and get to them. And so once you start it, it's about them. So once you start it, hang in here best you can until you get to them, because you're going to hear what they got to say. With that said, Brother Robert Pullen, how are you, buddy?
I'm fantastic.
Stephen Spire, Earl.
Yes, sir.
How are you, buddy?
I'm excited.
And joining us again for the second time is our friend. He was in the food fight. If you hadn't heard that one, that's fantastic. David Alexander. Brother David, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, sir. Glad to be here.
Good. Also in the room, Josh Alexander. He's going to be joining us later. Brittany Gore is going to be joining us in just a little bit. And our good friend, Robert Daniels. I got 2 Roberts. in the room, so we'll navigate that. With that said, let us begin. I don't have a sermon on this. So because I don't have a sermon, I don't have that ability to drive it like I normally would. So I don't know where it's going to take us. But let me tell you where it's not going to take us. So if you're out there and you've hit the button and you've seen it, tattoos, I got to check it out, because I want to see. You might be listening from a fascination point of view. You may be listening from a judgmental point of view. You may be listening for a lot of different reasons. Let me tell you what this episode is not about. This episode is not about, are tattoos wrong or right to have? That is just an area we are not going in, and we'll tell you why in a moment. But that is not fruitful. And I am not interested in empty conversations. About 18 months ago, when all this unfolded, I left fruitless conversation, should I say. It's a fruitless conversation to sit and argue whether or not tattoos are wrong or right, because all that's going to be filtered through so much more than Scripture, through the spirit world. You're going to need to get into personal opinions. And this is the podcast, again, if you're out there listening, this podcast is not going to be whether or not tattoos are wrong and right to have. With that said, everyone in this room right now has a tattoo or a brand, both. I didn't mean to sound like they're one and the same. Perhaps they are, whatever, except for me. I don't have any. And so I want the listener to try to understand that while, Adrian, the man, the podcaster, the pastor sitting here with people that I pastor, that everyone in here that you're going to hear speak has a tattoo but me. I have people on staff at this church that have tattoos. I have people that sing on the platform, play instruments, that have tattoos. How many sermons have any of you ever heard me preach on tattoos one way or the other?
None.
Have you ever even bring it up?
Nope.
Okay. Why? What does again, this is not about what's right or wrong. This is about what already is. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what already is.
107 million.
What is that?
32% of Americans have at least one tattoo. That's 107 million out of the 335 million in the 2023 census. 22%, 74 million have at least more than one. That's 1/3.
Okay. Anybody want to add anything there? I know that's not the only statistic that we have here, because I know my good brother Robert a little better than
I beat him to it.
Well, there's lots of statistics. Tattoo.
Again, these are statistics. These are not
yes
interpretations or positions. These are mathematical statistics.
The global tattoo market in 2021 was worth about 1.75 billion. And in the next 5 years, it's going to be worth $3 billion. So just from the monetary standpoint, it is big business. And there's another stat in there about the number one tattoos and things for different years, but I'm not ready to get into that just yet.
You mean like the number one tattoo of what it represents in what year? Recently? 24, 23?
23.
In 23.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, now we can't forget it. So I don't know where we'll slide it in.
Oh, it's coming.
Okay. Very good. So there's David, you want to add anything to that? So what is the biblical? What does the Bible say about tattoos? Now, don't get quiet on me. What's the Bible say about tattoos?
Leviticus 19.
28. Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Lord. Now, that's the KJV. The NIV, the NLT, the ESV, the New King James, the Berean, the American, everything else, where it says marks, it's got tattoo.
Okay. And?
Well, that's Levitical law.
Now we have to, hold on, let's be fair to Scripture here as we lay this out. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is not for or against. You're out there going, it's kind of sounding like it. Now, just be wise and hear a matter out. Could you just hear a matter out? That's all we ask you to do. Just be wise. Levitical law. Paul writes and says, so do we get rid of the law?
Absolutely not.
He said, God forbid, we are to establish the law.
For in it,
and here's the podcast, for in the law is the knowledge of sin. Oh, they just call tattoos sin. Oh, no, not even close. But we're just giving you what Scripture says. Now, why? There's the filter. Because we don't read and interpret what the Bible says. That's why I'm anti-interpretation. It says what it says, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our job is to find out why does it say that, and then use that in application, which we've done for 43 episodes. So now we read what it said. Why does it say that?
Because during this time, this was done to pagan gods. If you read down into Deuteronomy 14, this is the same. It does not say mark or tattoo, but there is the same line that you are children of God. You shall not cut yourselves. 1 Kings 18:28 is a perfect example. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after the manner with knives and lancets till the blood gushed out upon them. This was done by the prophets of Baal.
Robert?
so
I know you're ready to go on that. I know.
yeah. Well,
Just from conversation.
there's natural historical context on that. Slavery, Baal worship, all spiritual context involving blood covenants and supernatural laws. So, from Leviticus to the incident on Mount Carmel, just can't see it any other way than tied together.
The incident, you say.
The incident,
That was an incident?
the showdown.
The little spat? The little spat on Mount Carmel. Okay. Now, so that's Levitical law. We also know that a lot of Levitical law, kind of like the don't boil a kid's goat in its mother's milk.
You want some of them?
That's Levitical law too.
You want some
Well,
of
I
them?
think, well, go ahead. Yeah, we got,
Okay, if
yeah.
we're going to stand by this, if you're going to stand over there in the corner and point at me or anybody else in this room and say that you can't have a tattoo because of Levitical law, 1928, you've also got to think about eating the fat or blood on your ribeye. That's 317.
I'm out. We can shut the podcast down.
Touching an unclean animal
I
in
might not make
5.2.
it.
Carelessly making an oath in 5.4.
Shellfish is in there.
10.1, bringing unauthorized fire before God. Drinking alcohol in holy places, it's kind of a problem for Catholics. That's in 10.9. Eating an animal that doesn't chew its cud and has a divided hoof, that means camels, rabbits, pigs. That's in 11.4 through 7. Oh, for the ladies out there, going to church within 33 days of giving birth to a boy. That's Levitical law 12.4. 12.5, you can't go to church within 66 days of giving birth to a girl. Guys, having sex with a woman while she's on her period, that's 18.9. Reaping the edges of a field. So if you're going to go out there and get your corn, you have to leave a space on the edge of your field for the poor. That's 19.9. How many do you want me to go?
And we can't shave the edge of our beard.
Can't shave the edge of your beard. You can't mix fabrics, crossbreeding animals, planting different seeds in the same field, eating fruit from a tree within 4 years of planting it, trimming your beard, cutting your hair on the sides, not standing in the presence of the elderly. That's 1932.
Okay. That's good work.
Can I give my favorite one?
Oh, well, by all means.
This is not Levitical law, but this is Deuteronomy, and I have been really questioning this one. Deuteronomy 8.10, which is some of the same things. This is praying before a meal. Deuteronomy 8.10 says, when thou hast eaten and art full, then you shall bless the Lord thy God for the good land which he has given thee.
Lord, have mercy.
After instead of before.
Yeah, after you eat. A whole nother show. We'll get on that one, but that's just a teaser. How about that?
Okay. Are we in agreement here that the reason that Levitical law exists was mainly due to the culture of the Canaanites? Largely. Maybe not every one of them, but largely.
But largely.
Because it combats, that every Levitical law combats something that the Canaanites were doing in ritual to another god, another deity, another Elohim, another spirit, right?
That's right.
Okay. So I pose a question. Knowing what I know, doing what I do, believing what I believe. If I went, because I don't want you to cut and mark yourself, because I don't want you to be like them, not as a society, not as socioeconomics, none of that, from who they serve. Because they're serving Baal, Ashtoreth, Moloch. That's their deities. So knowing what I know, if I go, and I don't have a tattoo, and I get a big tattoo on my chest that says, for we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but power and principalities and rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. And I'll follow that up underneath with, for he has a name that is above every name, that at that name every knee should bow, tongue, the whole thing, that Jesus Christ is Lord. That's kind of the opposite. My reasoning there is kind of the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So now I don't want you to do that because they do it in honor of other gods. But what if, I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm not saying not to do it. I'm not affirming that you should do it. I'm not. I'm sitting here saying if I did that and my purpose was allegiance to the name that is above every name, where does that stand for the why in Levitical law? Now, y'all can't answer that. I can't either. And you out there listening can't either. So you know what we all should do? Where the Bible remains silent, we should remain silent. Ooh. And that is the nicest way I can say. I think we should be quiet about it. Okay? Now I got another question. Paul dealt with a man a man sleeping with his mother in the church. That's pretty specific and tough, right? Paul dealt with food, idols, food, and idolatry offered to demons. He dealt with some specific stuff. Now, y'all tell me, where in the New Testament did Paul, in all of his writings, deal with cuttings, markings, and tattoos?
Not that I know of anywhere.
Acts, right?
I don't know.
The only and you know what, let me rephrase that. He did not deal with it.
Are you fixing to interpret something?
No, I'm thinking about councils in the Jerusalem Council in Acts 15.
Okay.
You know, where they talked about the circumcision, which is a cut. But when it got when it got to the end of it, he said that it seems good, Acts 15:28, for it seems good to the Holy Ghost and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessary things, that you abstain from meats offered to idols, and from blood, and from things strangled, and from fornication, from which you keep yourselves, you shall do well. Fare ye well.
Money ain't got nothing to do with tattoos.
That's what I'm saying. He never once mentions marks.
So you went the long way around to say no.
Yeah.
Except, don't cut yourself, but he asked them to do that, so that doesn't apply. We can't link circumcision and cutting because that was
the whole point of that
God
council.
Almighty constituted the Jewish or the Israelites based upon that covenant with Abraham, so that doesn't work. So basically what we've come to is that in the New Testament, the subject is not addressed. Okay, do y'all know why now y'all have never heard me preach a sermon on this? Or take a position. Because I had an old elder of the faith about 4 or 5 years ago in a conversation. An old elder, one of them good conservative ones. And I think we should all practice to be conservative in the kingdom. I think that's a good practice, but this is not one I expected. We got on the subject, and I stand there then where I stand now, and that person, another generation away, said, I don't have any Bible to say that it's wrong. And I was floored. I couldn't believe this person said it. But the reality of it is, I don't care how many of the theologians and those that graduated from seminary school, and all the scholars and all the things that they think they do and don't know. The issue is this subject, even the cutting and markings, involves a ritual to the dead. It's not a standalone Levitical law. It has these things on it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. Now we got to talk about. Let's see. We're 18 minutes in. Well, I feel like our guests are over there waiting. But if we don't lay the groundwork for you guys, I know it's me. It's not y'all. But I don't want to rush. Okay. So I think we've covered that aspect of it. Now, if you want to rebut us on any of that, by all means do so. Bring your A game. Leave interpretation at the door. Bring it in context. And if you are right and we are wrong,
I'd love to hear it.
the next episode we will recant what we just said there. I will do it out loud, and I will do it in the pulpit of the church to the people that I pastor, and personally apologize to the people in this room as their pastor for that. Don't bring me what you think. Well, let me tell you what I think.
No.
You know what? I want to go out and watch grass grow about as much as I want to hear what people think the Bible says. Bring something. Now, let us talk about the historical. Now, this is not Bible or interpretation. What we're fixing to go, for the listener out there, those that are just ready to pounce and they're judging people with tattoos. Well, I'm outnumbered 7-1, and I'm a big guy, but I'm pretty sure I could get whooped in here right now. Don't shake your head like that, Robert. You get my point. So if you're ready to just jump on us, you're going to be ready to jump for a long time. But now the historical aspects of what we're fixing to bring you, well, you can go take that up with history. Whether, if you like it, if you don't, if you agree, whatever. Let's talk about some of the historical aspects of tattoos. Who wants to start? I'll start. I'll start with the 30,000-foot view, and then I'll let you guys hone in on the details and the stories. How's that sound? From what I have found, historically. Now, when I mean historically, I don't mean back to like the 40s. Okay? I'm talking about at the time Christ walked the earth, at the time Paul and his writings. Man, all the way back to Mesopotamia. Okay, let's just go back to the chronicling of man, all the way to Mesopotamia. The number one nature in history, the origins of it all, the number one nature of tattoos, historically speaking, correct me if I'm wrong, was that it was done to slaves or to own property as we would brand cattle or horses.
Exactly. To show ownership.
The biggest group of historical knowledge. You get a handful of tattoos that come through the ages from different people. That's one on, one off, one shot. They found, Otzi, the Iceman. Y'all heard of him? He's 5,500 years old. They found him in the mountains between the border of Austria and Italy. He has 61 tattoos in 19 groups. They're based all over his body. 3,100 to 3,400 BC is where they're putting the age of this body at. 61 tattoos in various places on his body, including his left wrist, lower back, torso, lower legs, ankles. 19 groups of tattoos ranging anywhere from the thickness of a pencil to a 1/4 inch thick, 1.5 inches long. The interesting thing about this guy is all the tattoos are in places that we have pain now. Ankles, knees, lower back, wrist, arthritic type stuff.
Like they were strategically put there.
Like he was putting them there for
pain
or
torture
to relieve pain and torture.
That's conjecture, right? Oh,
that is like I said. Yeah, this once again is a 5,500-year-old mummy we're talking about
From Italy, though.
Don't know. That's where, from Italy.
That is so fascinating to me. Would y'all like to guess what area of the world currently has the highest population per capita of tattooed people?
Well, I'm going to guess, but I already know. So just tell them.
It is Italy.
Antarctica? Oh,
Italy.
my fault.
Italy. And just before we move on, one more fun fact about that, them being the highest place with the number of people tattooed, they are reporting around 500,000 exorcisms per year.
Okay.
Just,
All right, hang on. This is where I come in. We bring you statistical facts and we bring you history, okay? Did Robert just say that because you have a tattoo, you're demon possessed? He did not. He gave you statistical facts. If you'll hang in here, you'll see why he said that in just a moment. I can hear you out there. You guys are leaning anti-tattoo. Well, you know what? Just whatever. Think what you want. Only a fool hears part of a matter and makes his mind up about it. A wise man hears a matter out fully. That is what it is.
it is.
The leading place of tattoos also leads per capita, right?
In exorcism.
In exorcism.
It does.
Historically, they would use brands and tattoos to mark prisoners of war, territories that they had taken, slaves, servants. That is the historical usage of tattoos back in antiquity. Anything adding there?
Can I throw one more in there? There's a mummy found in 700 AD. It's in the desert, Sudan desert. She had Greek letters. It was a female. 2005 is when the body was found. They found the tattoo in 2014 doing a CT scan. They found the Greek letters on the inside of her thigh of the word Michael. The theory behind it is that this woman was probably involved in something like prostitution, and she had those letters in the inside of her thigh as protection.
Wait a minute now. We do know, but we hadn't got to the gods yet, but we're on the march there. We do know who's the goddess of prostitution.
Ishtar.
Historically.
Yeah, Isis, or whoever you want, whatever name you want to go with.
Yeah. Well, Aphrodite in Corinth, take it to the Bible. Aphrodite in Corinth and Ishtar with the Canaanites. I'm going to run that back. Okay. Now I'm going to do two more things here. Ladies and gentlemen, you're probably ready for the guest. I'm ready for the guest, but I'm also still very intrigued on laying this groundwork.
That mummy that he's talking about, I think, was 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, it may have been 5,000. Yeah, they only found it recently. I mean, like I said, and when you start talking about antiquity,
years ago.
Just in case we forget, because we just brought the gods up, that prostitution line. Just in case I forget, since we hit the gods there, what is the number one tattoo in 2023?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I really am. So now the focus for 2023 was on mythology. Greek gods and goddesses have been among the most popular tattoo styles for the whole summer of 2023. And this is coming from tattoo artist Kyojung Chung, who goes by the moniker at Kyojung on Instagram. Don't have Instagram, but I'm sure that means something out there to others. So whether it's the entire leg covered in a Greek tragedy or Medusa on the arm, these tattoos are prevalent. And so the number one tattoo for 2023 was Atlas, the god who holds the earth on his back.
Also the emblem of the strongman competition.
Yes, emblem of the strongman. And it's so prevalent that mythology and tattoos just on TikTok for 2023 garnered 35 million views. Looking at tattoos and trying to get ideas for new tattoos, and so there's this whole social media platform that is geared around looking at these Greek pantheon gods, deciding, hey, do I want Zeus here or do I want Ishtar over here?
Poseidon.
Yes.
So the 2023, the number one subject of tattoos was the Greek pantheon.
Correct.
Which, let's do some of that work. This is why you need episode 1. Zeus is the New Testament, who's mentioned in your Bible, in the New Testament, is the New Testament Baal. Athena, the New Testament, Artemis, Diana, all mentioned in Scripture, is the New Testament version of Ashtoreth from the Old Testament. And of course, you get Kronos, which is going to be in there somewhere. I know if you Google Kronos tattoos, you're going to get a list of pictures of people that got Kronos, which is they're the Greek god of death, and that ties to Moloch when you run that back to the Old Testament. Okay, there's history. Now, I want to do two things here real quick. I'm going to do one of them real quick, and the other one's going to take me a minute to set our incoming guest up. I want to take a moment with the three of you that are in front of me that have tattoos and give you a moment to talk about your tattoos. And I know David hadn't said nothing yet, but we're going to start from left to right, like we would read something, and we'll just start there.
Okay.
Don't say nothing you don't want to say. Y'all know the whole pre-record speech.
Yes,
Here
sir.
we are.
Yes, sir. So I have 6 total tattoos. I have the Superman logo.
Are we friends?
We are very good friends.
We're
Yes,
friends.
sir.
And you have tattoos and I don't.
And you're still friends with me and with tattoos, and you don't have tattoos. Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm just making sure.
And you've never said one thing about my tattoos to me. But I have a Superman logo on one arm, shoulder, the Southern Miss Golden Eagle, and a tribal print on the other. I have my mother's maiden name inside my bicep on my left arm, my family name, Alexander, on my other arm. And then I have a Bible verse on my chest in honor of my mother. And then I have a tribal Black Panther on my hip. So I got 6 total tattoos. I started my first one when I was 18. Got my last one, which was the verse for my mother after she passed a couple years ago.
What would you say the influences were to get those? And do you think any of them have any meanings? And if you don't, may I critique them in a moment?
You definitely can.
Just for conversation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. The ones with the family names, of course, have meanings because they are family names. The Bible verse for my mother, Proverbs 31, just because of the way she was as a godly woman.
Very
so
sweet.
it's in honor of her.
Sweet, sweet-spirited lady,
Very
too.
so it's in honor of her.
Sweet-spirited lady,
Yes, sir.
too.
Yes, sir. The Southern Miss Eagle. It's just I'm a Southern Miss guy. That's where I graduated school from, and I like the look and the tribal look of it. Superman, as a symbol of strength. That's kind of the reason I got that one. The tribal Black Panther. Again, that was my first one when I was 18, 19. The conversation that led to choosing that Black Panther was, if you were an animal, what animal would you be? And so I liked the Black Panther at the time. I really can't explain it any further than that.
Have you ever dug into it with all this?
I have not. This is causing me to do additional digging in on, maybe what influenced. I know what influenced 5 of the 6th, but the Black Panther, I think I need to dig a little bit deeper into that one, because I know where I was at that point in time in my life, so I can definitely see that there was some influence there.
Let me. When I told Robert I wanted to have you back, when we were rucking the other day, and I wanted you to come guest host, and you told me, because I asked you, I said, you got 2 tattoos, right? And then you went through the list just like you did there of what you got, and I asked again, same thing there. Why'd you get them?
Right.
And you told the same thing in the Superman one. So I called Robert and I said, David's going to join us. He's got tattoos, which will put everybody in the room having tattoos, which is what I wanted. And I went through the list. And when I hit Superman, what did you say?
I said, that is the house of El, Elohim. So Superman hails from the house of El. Joel, all of them were the last name El, Elohim.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't. So now I got 2 to dig into.
Yeah.
But again, if when I look at it with the eyes that I look at it now,
Right.
and just like you and I were talking that day when we was rucking, I've always liked tattoos just in general, and I always am intrigued by why people get them. I never until now have approached it from a spiritual look,
Right.
but now I look for tattoos, and I want to know, what influenced you to get that. And a lot of times, in the military, they're everywhere,
Right.
of course, and every active duty military post, you walk outside the gate, and there's.
And you're a retired Lieutenant Colonel. Colonel.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure the audience knows that, Wayne.
Right.
You're qualified to speak on it.
Yes, sir. So, after 23 plus years of active duty, every time you go to a military post, you walk outside the gate, drive outside the gate, and you got check cashing places, strip clubs, and tattoo parlors. It's pretty much your 3 biggest businesses at every military post. I know a lot of military guys and girls that have numerous tattoos. A lot of times military will get them in honor or tribute to the unit, to another person, to a fallen soldier that they serve with, things like that. But I'm always intrigued on where were you at in your point in life when you got that tattoo, and why. It's just like Robert is bringing that up about the Superman. I know where I was at in my point in life when I got that tattoo. So, yeah, I can see that there was probably an influence in my life that led me in that direction. I didn't have anything that led me to get my family's name other than honoring my family.
Sure.
But there, the Black Panther and the Superman, I can, again, just knowing where I was in my mindset, my spiritual walk, and in my life at that point, I could definitely see that there was something influencing that.
Are you looking? Did you look for the Black Panther?
No, I hadn't looked
Okay,
yet.
good.
I'm going to let him do that. Yeah, I'm still working on my own.
You had that look. I appreciate you. I'll ask all 3 of y'all before I transition into my part, and then we'll get to the guest. Brother Robert, is there anything you'd like to say about yours?
So I've got 2. The first one, my father died March 31st, 2000. He loved a Ruger firearm. So shortly after that, I went to Oxford, Mississippi, and got the Ruger emblem tattooed on my shoulder.
Do you know what Ruger means in the Greek?
I do not.
I don't either. So
I
go
would
ahead.
guess.
I,
Excellent weapon.
really thought you were going to. I didn't look because I knew you would.
I don't either. I don't.
I wish I had looked
at it
now.
and probably won't. I'm just kidding. I'm just baiting those that are out there judging us already. I'm already tired of them. But for those of us that are actually listening to learn something, I'm a little lighthearted joke that I have
Right.
no idea. I've not looked.
I don't know either. I do know this though. There is
For all I know, it means tall guy.
there is a darker side to it, because although I got it, the Ruger emblem, I guess in honor of him, it looked a whole lot like Bocephus's Phoenix. And so when I was in the bar drinking with my sleeveless shirt on, is that Bocephus? And depending on
You
him,
went to the bar in a sleeveless shirt?
oh, country,
Good God.
country. I thought everybody did, but good conversation starter. I only have one more, and it's just a wrap around my left bicep, and I don't even know. I'll say this: when I got the first tattoo, there was instantly something inside of me that just wanted to go get another one. I don't know.
I heard they're addictive. Is it like an addiction? To my 3 guests over there that y'all can't see or hear, let's talk. Let's maybe cover some ground on that. I don't know.
Yeah, once I got one, there was a desire to get another. And once I got another one, I wanted another one. I didn't. Just kind of sit around. What am I doing, or why am I doing that? But I can say that I got this emblem on my shoulder to honor my father. But then I that's not the life I lived with it. Is that Bocephus on your? Yeah, it is.
That's actually his name, Bocephus.
Hank Williams Jr.
Okay.
Country music singer.
Oh, I got you. I was like, is there a God named Bocephus? What are we talking about?
No.
Well, in country music, yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
very good.
So that's the length and breadth of that.
Very good. Earl?
I have no tattoos. I have 4 brands. This would have been 30 years ago. These were all, I hate to call it self-induced, but I did them myself.
Okay.
And I have 4 brands. They don't, only one shows up right now. Come July, when the sun's out and I start getting a little bit darker, they all show up. I've noticed that. They do show up in the summertime.
And you going around sleeveless too?
Yeah, when I go around sleeveless, yeah, they show back up. The first was a set of initials. The second was a design, straight edge, 90 degrees. The third was a cube, and the fourth was a star.
Would you like to elaborate? I need the listener to know something right here. That everybody's been told to elaborate. That anytime they want to hit the eject button, they can hit it. I don't want to say nothing on these microphones they're not comfortable with. They've been encouraged to speak the truth and to help you out there. Because, ladies and gentlemen, where we're about to go, where I'm going to take you after Earl gets finished talking here, and that leads us to our guest, substantial. It is substantial in humanity right now. Anytime they want to hit the eject button, they can. And I have nothing but respect for that. Do you care to elaborate?
I'll hit the high spots.
Okay.
This was a time in my life when, I'm going to show my age on this, but 30 years ago, I'd have been 15, 16 years old. So I was getting involved with stuff that I shouldn't have been getting involved with. I had a question. I have spoke many times. I was born and raised Catholic, but there was a time in my life when I didn't believe there was a God. And this was in that time. The designs were just something it just come up, it just
Came to mind.
It just come to mind. Let's just try this. The initials, they were initials. They were somebody's initials that I knew at the time. They got done. Now, if you want to run it through Egyptian, it's the owl and the folded cloth.
So when you're saying these initials, which I know what they are, but you chose not to say them, so I'm not either what they are. But you're saying in Egyptian hieroglyphics,
Yes.
that, yeah, you thought you was getting one
Thought
thing.
I was getting one thing.
This
Yeah.
is an important juncture in the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, because we're starting to make that turn from laying groundwork to application, and your mind being blown, and some tough ground. You're saying that you thought you was getting a one thing. Now you've got another, and in Egyptian hieroglyphics, the first initial
Is an owl.
is an owl.
That is how that initial comes across.
Birds and four-footed beast. Now, and the other one is
The symbol is a folded cloth, but it means to live long and prosper, basically. So I have got Ishtar, live long, on my shoulder, if you want to look at it that way.
okay. All right. Anything else you want to add there?
The second design was just a design, but I found out that in Korean it means more.
More.
It's right below Ishtar, live long and prosper. The third being the three-dimensional cube. We can go anywhere with that.
You mean to just say it?
Yeah, say it.
Because me and one of the guests may hit it in a minute, but as we talked about, we're getting into what is called sacred geometry. Now, that is something that was brought to me at the very beginning of all this work that I walked off from. I had no interest in it. I'm going to be clear to the listener and you guys, I've not studied this. But when you said it to me the other day, it's the second time I'd heard it, I still haven't studied it. That sacred geometry in the spirit world, that's not good.
No.
Do you
Yes,
agree?
yeah, from what
You wanna
I've
elaborate
read,
on that a little
I mean,
bit?
it runs through Plato, and you got something, Robert?
Josh, when you come up in a moment, fill in any holes if we get to that. Fill in any holes that maybe they didn't. And I know you can personally, but any other thing you've looked at, y'all go ahead.
Just that, it runs the road of a connection between the spiritual and earthly realms, which is, the beginning of sacred geometry. That's fascinating to me. The connection between spiritual and earthly realms, like a gateway.
The ancients.
Oh, you mean like the helmet of salvation? Or no, the helmet of Hermes, which Paul uses as his whole armor.
To go
to
between,
be able to traverse the spirit world and the natural world in an instant.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
The cube was a symbol of the rational mind in the Greeks, to where the sphere was a contrast to the spirit. So rational mind on that one, it's considered, it's tied to the number 4. It's an earth element in a lot of stuff. It's used in tarot cards. It's on the Emperor card, the Chariot card, and the Justice card. The Devil card displays a half cube. It's tied to buildings. The 6 faces of the cube, when unfolded, is a Latin cross, which a lot of altars were not. Pagan altars were tied to have a type of cross size or dimensions. It's tied to a lot of altars. It's tied to gems and gold. If you go to the building blocks of our world, you get to the microscopic size of it.
actually a
It's,
great
the cube
made-up
is
word.
the cube is in silver, gold, and lead and copper.
All right. What else?
I have a star.
Star. Okay.
The star was the most intricate.
Intricate.
I can't talk.
I can't even say it now.
I'm nervous tonight for some
It's
reason.
all right. I think everybody is deep,
I
tough.
spent a lot of time on it, and it did not take. It is just a gash across my arm now, and I'm kind of glad that one didn't take, because it's a star.
Yeah.
I spent so much time on it, but this is self-mutilation is what this is. This is where this ties into. I had no reason
There's
to do this.
that Mount Carmel
Yeah,
thing
that's
again.
that's what I didn't put all this together until the study for this. I've rocked this on my arm, and like I said, it don't show up in the wintertime. In the summertime, it'll show back up. Been outside, get tan, they all pop back up. My wife will start pointing them out, kids will point them out. Never really thought about it until last week when we started this. I razor blade cut in my hand one time the word life. That's a lot of.
Yeah.
I did that.
Let me to move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me, I'm just going to give you just some prep work to get ready for the guest. Let me tell you why we're really here. We're really here doing this because when the filter was uncovered, episode 1, how it all happened, we started looking at astrology. And we had to cover the birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. And we've not done a podcast on creeping things. I preached a sermon on creeping things, but we didn't do the podcast on it. You will hear creeping things today. Maybe not in its totality, but in the realm of what we're talking about, you're going to hear that. And all of these signs and words in the Bible, like the mandrakes, all the things you've heard us podcast. None of it has not been said on any of the episodes. It's nothing except for the creeping things. It's the only thing we've just really haven't covered in depth. The flower wars there, the rose, the mandrakes in Genesis 26, I think, the flowers, the lions, astrology, sun, moon, stars. I mean, Saturn's in Scripture. It's what Kayun and Remphan translates to. Trees, groves, bulls, leaves, moon, dragonflies, butterflies. The whole 9 yards is there. We looked at all this, committed it to memory. That's the war of territory. And that they took God's creation and they used it as a representation of themselves. So now you have the spirit world, now you have the things in the earthly world that they use to represent themselves, and now you have the deeds that they want to influence on mankind. Keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, for the remainder of this podcast. You have the dark spirit world, you have the creation and things that they took, the war of territory that's all in our podcast, and you have the deeds. Now we had that. And so when we begin to preach this and we begin to podcast it and we begin to teach it, people would come to me for counsel. People's lives were a wreck. And it is possible for your life to be in a wreck and not have a tattoo. Okay? Like, can I be clear about that? There's a lot of people that don't have tattoos, that their life is just as big a wreck as people that do have tattoos, okay? I don't know why. I don't know the difference in it. I don't know. You don't know either. So again, let's just take that opportunity to not say anything. All I can tell you is that the people that were coming to me had them. And I can only work with what I got. And I can only see what I see. And I can only know what I know. And so I'm talking with them because now we've got a whole spirit world war going on here. Like, we got to fight. Now we know what we're fighting. That's the work. That's the filter. And so I'm going to do the high points of this. I'm not going to give genders. I'm not going to give names. I'm just going to give you some examples as I lay the groundwork to bring our guest in. Months and months ago, I'm not even going to give time frame. I was talking to this gentleman one time and everything was on the table. In his words, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? And then it was suicide, loss of a family member. I mean, he sat right there on the couch where you guys are sitting right now and just frustrated and mad and once believed in God and then walked off from it. And, like Earl, you said, well, I don't even know anymore. I believe, but Lord, help my unbelief. That kind of stuff. And I hit the tattoo line with him. I just asked him to see your tattoos. So I know historically, like all of the things that I just mentioned is not just biblical. It's historical fact that Venus and the half crescent moon represents Ashtoreth in all pantheons. It is historical fact that the sun, every culture has a sun god that they worship with a different name. That's Baal. It's not conjecture. It's not interpretation. It is fact. And I said, let me see. And so I started, no, I didn't say let him see. And I was telling him about the spirit world the first time, about Baal and Ashtoreth, because he was just naming the deeds off left and right. And when I hit bulls, the golden calf, bulls that represent Baal, and he's also the sun god, the weather god, the Lord of the heavens. And then I hit the half crescent moon. The dude's eyes about come out of his head, and he jumps up and he rips his shirt off. I got a picture right here. I got a picture from the witnesses in the room. He rips his shirt off, and he rips his shirt off. And on his chest is the biggest bull skull I'd ever seen. And on his left of the bull skull, on his left shoulder, a half crescent moon. And on his right shoulder, a sun. And he just sat down and looked at me as if witchcraft was involved. And I was like, it's just history, Bubba. It just is what it is. And so then you got this other person, issues, all the things that I just mentioned. And I got to talking to him one day, and I'm like, let's see tattoos. A lot of tattoos. And, well, he's got one of them. I don't even know what this picture really is, except there's a bird there. And I have to pay attention to that because Paul says birds and four-footed beast. And there's a lot in Scripture about birds. And I'm like, man, and he's telling me all these things that's happened. And then, right there on his arm, there's a serpent. That's, how they curl kind of when they're crawling, and in between the curls, half crescent moon. It's right there. You see it? And then this one, I really didn't know what it was, but once I actually took a picture of it and put it in Google Images, brought me to sacred geometry. So this has been building. This podcast has been building based on people that I'm speaking with that are reaching out for help. And there's been two instances in this church in relation to, oh, y'all pray for me. It's my burden to bear here, not y'all's. In sexual assault cases, which is why we have a podcast on sexual assault. We have these podcasts because these are things that have been shown to us. And there's two people that I spoke with a week leading up to that. Both of them had a tattoo of Artemis in the same place. They don't even know each other. I'm not even going to say what one of them's wearing, what Artemis is wearing, and one of them, you know what? I'm not going to say what either one of them's wearing because I have to maintain what I have to maintain. But if you're out there and you just want to call me a liar, and I'm just making this up to make my point, you just contact me. And because the people I pastor got guts. I don't pastor weak people. People I pastor got guts. We don't run from nothing at the sanctuary. We're going to hit it head on. They're not perfect, but they got guts. So you just come on in my office. And these people that I'm talking about, I'll bring them in this office and I'll let you see for yourself. If you got something to say. I will say one thing about one of them, that on one of them, she's wearing a headband. And the headband's got an emblem on it that rests on the forehead. And it is a half crescent moon. And then I begin to put something else together talking to people, and I'm really going to talk in ambiguous terms, and I'm coming to the guest. That as people will come in here and say things to me that I've had to happen to me in the last 18 months. They'll come in and say things that they've never told anybody. Anybody. And I started getting a lot of sexual assault and molestation stuff coming up. I am not about to say that everybody that has flowers and butterflies and dragonflies and roses and half-crescent moons and Venus, everybody that has those tattoos have been sexually molested or sexually assaulted. But I am ready to sit here and say that the majority of people that have those in mass have. They have. And again, if I face too much backlash, I pastor strong, courageous people. They're unbelievable people. They'll be glad to meet you in here and tell you. Not in just defense of me, but defense of what we are about to unfold to you. That we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but power and principalities and rulers of darkness. And they want to make us slaves. They want to make us servants. I bring to you. No, I brought substantial things tonight. These mics are open to any and everybody right now, but I'm going to do one at a time. I'm 56 minutes in. I've got time. I'm going to start with my friend Robert Daniels. Come on in here and have a seat. It's okay. You can't break nothing. Put the headphones on. And Robert, let's just have a conversation. Now that I know the guests were nervous, and I don't blame them. And I asked, we had to lay the groundwork, but I think it was good for you guys. Would you say, Brother Robert, make sure you talk in the microphone? We say it was good for you to sit here and watch the first hour of this, kind of see how it's done.
Yeah, I believe it was pretty
Yeah, just
interesting.
stay in that mic for me.
I believe it was pretty interesting. It laid some groundwork for us, and it calmed our nerves for once. Dealing with this spiritual warfare, it's really.
So let me ask you a question. You see a lot. You have tattoos.
I do.
And just real quick, tell everybody what your tattoos are.
The very first tattoo.
And again, talk in that microphone. I want to make sure we're getting a good. Can y'all hear him good in the? Go ahead.
Yeah, the very first tattoo I got was I grew up. I won't give you my background history first, but the very first tattoo I got was Indian, tribal. It was based on some war, and my thinking of why I got that tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the tattoos had a turn. I waited longer and got those after a certain point in my life. Those mean a lot different. The reasons behind getting those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 tattoos in total.
What do you do for a living?
The past 3 years, I've become a bail bondsman.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bail bond business. Me and my wife, we run into a lot of folks bonding people out of jail on the streets. We also get people into rehabs, doing different things like that. We meet a lot of people in and out and around the jails.
Right.
So that's what we.
And then you also do some work with drug and alcohol, those that are battling addiction. What is that called?
Yeah, we have a Saint Sinners and Lost Souls ministry here in town, and we run into a lot of folks, like I said, off the streets, out of these jails, friends and family, people we've worked with over the past years, people we go to church with, just people in the community. We help them.
And you go to this church, right?
We do.
The sanctuary. And I'm not plugging the sanctuary. I'm just saying that you're somebody that I pastor.
Absolutely.
And you've sat here for 18 months and you've heard all of these things.
Absolutely.
How much do you come in contact with a lot of people on the legal side of things?
Yes, sir.
And on the battling the addiction side of things in that world? And oftentimes, oftentimes that world goes hand in hand. Would you agree?
Right.
How much, in the way of the conversation that we're having right now, how much is all this resonating with you as you look back in your mind's eye, so to speak, about some of the things that these represent? When you get into witchcraft, mind and mood altering drugs, which is taking you to the jail and then taking you to those meetings with people that are suffering from addiction.
Right.
And then would you say that there's some stuff not being talked about even in your meetings?
Right.
That we're not talking about out loud. I mean, like people aren't saying out loud, because just make any connection you can for me there.
Right. But nonetheless, when they don't talk about it out loud, we still understand that there's a spiritual warfare that they've battled from day one throughout their whole life. And you can see the actual physicalities of it. And sometimes it results in a tattoo, self-mutilation, just as y'all have talked about before.
So look, we're being very specific here. I've given all the disclaimers I can. After what I've seen, and you tell me, because you've seen a lot, you've seen more than me, actually.
Right.
But mine's pretty specific when they come in here. We're talking about a specific thing. You're seeing more en masse in the meetings that you hold and people that you're helping on the legal side of things. This is what I came to. Tell me if you agree or disagree. That in this world, we're not saying that everybody's got a tattoo, is strung out, got legal problems, or been sexually assaulted. We're not saying that. I did say a while ago that I feel like the majority of the people that come in here and I speak with that have these things on them, the majority, which is 51%, at least, do. And then so when I've seen it so much, this is how I've told multiple people, including Robert Pullen and Earl,
Right.
that our life is a canvas. And the gods, I think you need to understand something out there, ladies and gentlemen. The gods have to show themselves. They are arrogant. They have to be seen in some way, shape, or form. They have to parade themselves through social media, through downtown. They have to show themselves. They have to. And they take that life down that road. That life is a canvas. And that life is now, there's been a picture that's painted on that canvas. That's not the tattoos. That is the deeds, the actions, the place that life has ended up.
That's right.
So when I say they paint the picture, I'm not talking about the tattoos, okay? Not. And like every artist will do, down at the bottom right hand of the canvas, they'll sign their work. You agree?
Absolutely, I agree.
It is my belief that little small signature in the right hand part of the canvas is tattoos.
Yes.
Would you agree or disagree with that?
I completely agree with it. From all the lives that I've seen changed and went through any of these aspects in life, absolutely, that's just like you portrayed it. It's a signature that spiritual or that deed, that God, that whatever that might have been in their life at that time, absolutely signed it as an artist or we'll go with artist.
How could we say that this is, could we say that the consistency of what you see and experience, that all the stories are the same? Basically. That they have some individual, every person that you come in contact with, legal side or on the recovery side, that they have some individual nuances to them, but they're basically the same story.
Right.
Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm going to agree that I'm hearing the same thing in here, privately, one-on-one. It's the same story. Did y'all know that when I go into counseling with somebody that is deep, deep depression, deep, deep rebellion, deep, deep anxiety, suicidal thoughts, the whole 9 yards. I mean, young person, older person, doesn't matter. I don't think I've ever said this on the podcast. There are 3 things that person deals with that is 100%. That is either A, they have an affair or an addiction to alcohol / pills, mind and mood altering substances. 2, they have a unknown secret pornography addiction. Or 3, they were molested as a child. And it's 100%. And then if I had a 3A, that leads us to suicide because it's all the same thing. So if you're seeing the same thing in the world, in the legal side and in the recovery side, and I'm seeing the same thing in this office, which I am, well, then there is only one common denominator. That is, it has to be the same spirits perpetrating the same plan and the same deeds upon these people. And would you agree?
I agree.
You've probably done this long enough, and you sit down with the people that come to your establishment, that you could probably tell their story without them doing it.
That's right. You can watch them walk in with unjudged. I mean, I've come from the same background and pathway, but up until a certain point, you can watch them come in, broken as they may be, addicted, like you said, molested, pill addictions, alcoholism, whatever the case may be. You can watch as they walk in, and you can look at that as a painting, if you may, and you can watch by looking at their tattoos what it's related to and how that artist signed before they gave their lives to God. You can watch it as a signature to a masterpiece, as a Van Gogh, if I may say. You could watch that, and that's just how I look at it.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add, buddy? I know that I know you're on the testimony side.
Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it. But again, as I said, we've got to show them something.
Right.
We got to show them something they don't know before we can show them something that at least they already kind of know.
Right. On the tattoos that I got that you asked me about earlier, I got that. I told you the very first tattoo I got was war. It represented some type of war. I didn't know what it was when I got it.
Well, whoa. Let's back up right there.
Okay.
What is it?
It was a tribal, Indian tribal band around my arm.
You know who the goddess of love and war is? That's Ashtoreth.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So when you said war, now we got to back. Now we're going to get to the specifics, because when you say war, we also know her other deeds: addiction, alcoholism, pornography, prostitution, sexual assault. Where do you want to take us?
I'll hit the high point at the age of 16 when I got this tattoo of war. And I think she was signing her masterpiece that she thought that she had won, or she was in control of that. And at that point I was just getting into not knowing what spiritual warfare was. I was getting into my own spiritual warfare on the outside of
But
it.
you didn't even know what it was.
I had no clue.
That's okay. So what deeds did you get into that you feel like that was the influence of war?
As an early child, I battled molestation, the ability to be left alone, not feeling good enough, the unwanted, everything that I watch, all these new people coming in our office and they're battling the exact same things. It stems from a root problem of feeling unworthy, not good enough. But mine started with molestation. It's the very first thing that I could think of that started my root problem. And then not feeling worthy or good enough. At the age of 9, my dad was murdered. So with those two spirits, spiritual warfare was just opening up in my life. And as a 9-year-old kid, you don't understand how to battle those things. Nonetheless, the molestation, nonetheless, both of those together, it creates something inside of you that breeds an uncontrollable desire for anger. At that time, I didn't know God, had no clue who God was. I'd come out to Mississippi and visit my grandmother, and she had run us up to church on Sunday, and that was
Checking a box.
checking a box. I had no clue who that was or what it was for. I was checking the box for my grandmother because that's what she always did. But on the war side, on the battle side of it, trying to figure out how to overcome that,
Did you even really know it was the spirit world? Or
Had no
that was just
clue.
you? I'm broken. I'm messed up. This happened to me, and I'm a loser. And all those voices in your head telling you that, with no idea that you weren't wrestling with flesh and blood.
Absolutely. It was contained in my heart and in my head. And I had no way of getting that out, no way of figuring out why I was messed up and why this was happening to me.
Sure.
So I chose anger. I took it out on everybody. I took it out on mainly the ones we love. You know, I can say that I had a middle sister. I had my younger sister that was my one person that I wouldn't have done anything else. But everybody around that, it didn't matter who it was.
Yeah.
In school, out of school, I took it out on them. It led me to a life of, you know, just like anybody else is in their darkest days,
Was looking for light.
looking for light. At this moment, I was not looking for light. I was looking
Yeah, but
for,
you were looking for light. You just wasn't looking for the light.
yeah,
You were
you're
just looking for any light, anything to numb it.
I was looking for a way to unleash my wrath on something.
What'd you find when you started just looking for some way to numb it? Hit the eject button whenever you want, buddy.
Up until that point, you know, I contemplated a lot of things, a lot of harmful things to others. Got myself kicked out of school a couple times. And all I could hear as that light, didn't know what it was, but all I can hear is that light at that moment was my mom and maybe some counselors, maybe a principal that I was in the office every time I turned around. And sometimes my mom didn't even know about it, you know. She was busy off working. Another way that I didn't have a connection of anything or anybody. So at the times I did, it was good attention or bad attention. It didn't matter. But the attention I was getting wasn't enough, so I was going to give some attention to others, mostly bad.
Yeah.
You know, I could contemplate harming a school. I contemplated doing a lot of harmful things to others, the gratification of, I was in a very dark place at around 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. My mom remarried, thought that was going to be better. Thought I seen some light. And some more spiritual warfare happened. For the ones that's listening, when you see the light and you think, that, hey, this is what I found, and I'm going to dig myself up out of this.
Because when you're looking for something, anything will do.
Anything will do.
That's the
Anything
trick.
will do.
Anything will do.
Then you open yourself up. As I've listened to all these others that's come to our ministry, I've opened myself up thinking, aha, this is the light. This is where it's supposed to be fixed. This is how it's going to be fixed. And then you're opening yourself up and you're vulnerable again. And then bam, it hits you right in the face again because
The cycle.
that cycle,
Would you say that you lived your life in cycles?
lunatic cycle.
The lunar meaning moon.
Absolutely.
You lived your life in a cycle.
Absolutely. Things changed. It got a little better.
Then you'd get bottom out again.
Bottomed out again. We moved here. Thought everything was going to be good. I'm at the age of 16. And I know we don't want to get into the testimony part, but this is just a timeline that
Sure.
this is what I was battling that I see visibly, physically on these people's bodies. I was battling it.
Have you ever seen a manifestation of the spirit world
Absolutely.
in that?
Absolutely.
What did you see?
That was on in towards my drug addiction after the age of when I got to 16. We moved out here. We moved out here to move from the horrible life of living in Houston, Texas as a child, 9 years old. Dad's murdered. There's drugs and organized crime and everything else around it. And I'm not painting a bad enough picture, but at the age of 9 years old, when all this is happening, it was horrible to me. So as we look for that light, my mom's remarried. We move out here thinking this would be a better thing. And absolutely the Spirit had not let go of me. It was just getting its grips in there. And once that happened at the age of 16, a little pot here, a little alcohol here, I wanted to fit in, new person, new school. I wanted that self. I wanted to fit in. Through all this, I blamed God. I didn't know him, but nonetheless, if my grandma goes and prays to this person in this church, there's got to be something there. And that must be the problem. He took my dad. He caused this murder. He did all these things. And I can paint a very horrible picture of that, of how much I hated God at that moment. And I think that's what opened the spirit world up for me, to them to attach to me so hard, so with all talons, as you would say. But nonetheless, we moved here in my head to run from things, new life, they were in a new life, new place, better, let's get Robert focused on not so much the negativity and get him focused. Let's get him in art classes. Let's get him something other than taking his anger and vengefulness out on these people. Let's make it productive. So they put me in a bunch of art classes. I was good at drawing. I was good at art. I was very vivid on things. And that helped me get through it. That's why most of my tattoos are more, I would say, artistic is the reason why I got them. One aspect of it, but nonetheless, it was an outward expression of myself.
Do you classify tattoos as art?
I do.
Okay.
On some of them, yes.
I'm just asking.
Right. Some of them are brands. Some of them are clearly art. I've applied several tattoos to people.
I got to ask, Robert. Yeah. Have you gone back through any of your old artwork and checked on any of that stuff? I only say that because we went to high school together. Right. We were in art classes together, and I have actually thought about doing this, but I haven't done it yet. I found a bunch of it the other day, but I won't open it yet. And when you said that, I was like, well, I got to ask, do you still have your old stuff? And have you gone back and looked at it? Because I'm going to look at mine. I just hadn't done it yet.
Absolutely. I think that's a thing that we can do that together. I'm always into.
I think we should meet up here one night and do it.
I'm an open book.
So,
and it's weird that I have when you ask that question, I have an open portfolio still from 1996, 97, 98 that I just hadn't opened. One of them sealed.
Well, I wanted your perspective. Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
I wanted your perspective. I know you can sit here and go to other places. I know you. We've talked. But I know you from what you see. I wanted you to just bring that perspective, not only of your own life,
right,
but also of the things that you see daily working in that environment.
Right.
I'm go ahead, finish that up.
A lot of what you do see is what people are, unbeknownst to them, they don't really know what they're getting it for.
That's why we're here tonight.
They don't even know the spiritual attachment. They don't know. And
it's playing out right in front of them and they have no idea.
Absolutely. But then on my side, I'm an overthinker. I'm an artistic type of person. I overanalyzed the tattoos that I got way before I got them. With all that negativity and all that drama and the horrible spiritual attachment to me, one night I found myself in a church. Got saved. Got the tattoo on my right arm, covered up. And at that moment, and every moment that I got a tattoo, my spiritual walk was, it's not to go if there's tattoos are right or wrong. It's not even that's, you're looking at the wrong portion of that. What my reasoning for getting tattoos is I wanted somebody to see inside of me. I wanted to be a billboard, and that might not be the exact wording of what everybody could say, but I personally wanted to be a billboard, and every tattoo I got was God related, Jesus related. That the one on my right forearm is Christos, which was, I think it's the first time that word was mentioned in the Bible was during the story of the fishers of men. Here I am 25 years later, out
Fishing for men.
So that's, they mean something to me.
I believe it.
Whether they do or do not mean something to the person getting them, absolutely, once they look back on it, they do mean something to you. When you go through that walk and you see, oh, I got a piece of this tattoo right here covered up because it was a crescent moon or a whatever, it meant something to you at that moment. You can look back in your life and go over.
You just don't know. You just don't know the influence of it.
You just don't know the influence.
I wish I could have you. I wish I had time to do the whole thing with you. Right. And perhaps we may revisit that. But I want to thank you for being courageous and coming in. And I appreciate what you do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I know that ladies first. I get it. But Brittany, I want you to go last. Can we do that? So Josh Alexander, come on in here, buddy, and have a seat. First of all, how you doing, my man?
I can't complain.
Good. How old are you?
I turned 29 last Friday.
So you're going to be the youngest guy in the room, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure how old everybody is, but I think I am.
Yeah, I think you're going to be the youngest guy in the room. You're also, probably when it comes to filter work, the freshest, the newest to it.
I definitely believe that.
Yeah, in the room.
You know, I've lived off for a couple years now.
That's right.
And the way my dad explained, it's been about 18 months or so. And so I've been gone all of that time.
Yeah.
And I've just recently made my way back to be around more often.
You want to talk about your tattoos a little bit?
We can get into them.
All right.
So I have 3. I have one on my right knee that says 1996. So that was the year I was born. I just liked the placement, thought it looked cool. So that's why that one's there. I have one on my ribs that says no matter what. So me and my 2 sisters have all matching tattoos. So that's just for us. And then my third, which I say it's a third, but it's my entire left arm into my chest, back, and shoulder. And it is sacred geometry, mandalas, and Metatron's cube on my forearm.
That's the name you brought up yesterday to me. Metatron's cube. All right. Are you ready to talk about that a little bit? And I know he's going to, but are you ready to converse with him?
I mean, I'll try, but
Here's what I want to do. Is anybody here anybody here willing to talk about that? I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to take, because I'm going to take me a short break here, and I'm not going to hit the pause button, and I'm not editing it, okay?
Okay.
I want you to take a moment as I take me just a quick break, and I want you to give us the rundown on that sacred geometry stuff, the cube, because now that's twice. Now we're in a pattern in the room, just in the room. We've got the word, the cube's been brought up, and I want you to talk about what it is, what it means to you, and the influence behind why you decided to do that.
Okay. So I remember where I was when I decided to get tattoos.
That's me. We live action, baby. Go ahead.
So this was before COVID, so 2019 maybe. I had been bartending for a while. I had saved up a bunch of money, and I had always wanted tattoos, and I finally decided, you know what, let's just find something we want, and we'll just get that. So I'm scrolling Instagram, and a sleeve popped up that I really liked, and I couldn't tell you why I liked it, but it was a lot of, like shapes and different connecting shapes and stuff. And I'd always been a big math guy, shapes, geometry, and stuff like that. And that's always been my niche in school, was numbers, shapes, and that whole genre of academics. So I see this sleeve, and it just pops to me. So I DM'd the artist who did that sleeve, and I just messaged him. I was like, "Hey, I really like your work. I'd like you to design me a sleeve. You kind of have free reign to do it. But this is what I would like you to base it off of because this is what I like. Like this, all these shapes and stuff look really good to me."
So can I ask a question? Did you check into anything on that, or did you just asked him and he designed it all?
So when I saw the sleeve, I kind of looked into it and it said sacred geometry. So the word sacred, you kind of think it has some ties in there. So I did some research, but obviously I didn't go deep enough as I should have, because the first page of Google, you look up sacred geometry and it's talking about the interconnectedness of everything in the universe. And so like back then I was thinking, like I like to think that we're all connected, that all things have a tie together. And like,
can I interject with the question there, if I may use the word universe? Where was you at in your, I really don't like using the term, but your faith. Where were you at then?
I was in an okay spot then. I was still living at home. I'm in church every Sunday with my parents and stuff like that. So I was in the church every Sunday. So I felt okay in my faith. I was never super outgoing in it, if that makes sense. But I couldn't tell you what drew me to that. Because, like you see tattoos all the time. You see cool designs all the time. But scrolling through Instagram, that one
just jumped out at you.
It jumped out at me and I couldn't let it go. There was nothing in me that was going to let it go. Because I'm not a DM you and ask you for business. I'm not that guy. But seeing this, I had to write him. I had to let him know, hey, I really like this and I want this. So my first tattoo was my entire left arm. It was not some people get small tattoos to start and then they get addicting and you keep going and add and add and add. I had him design an entire arm to start. So
you started off with the cube,
yeah, so,
and the sacred geometry line. That's what you started there.
Yeah, that was my first set of tattoos. The other two came later. Mm-hmm. But when I read and I looked into it, it's called sacred geometry, so you think there's that connection there. But the way I saw it was, showing the interconnectedness of the universe and its shapes, and there's not really something more to it. Is that tied? Is any of that tied to astrology? The sacred geometry part and all that, is any of it tied to astrology? I've not studied it, so that's a genuine question. Not that I've never made the ties from the sacred geometry to astrology. As we go further, I'll tell you about some astrology stuff. Sure. But then the shape that it really stands out in my sleeve is the Metatron's cube. Mm-hmm. So, and that was something that I was very set on getting, because when I looked it up, it was, if you look up Metatron, all you see to start is Metatron was an archangel. So, but in seeing that, I didn't go deeper than that. I was not fully aware that archangels are in other religions as well, Judaism. They're out there in different. Is there archangels in paganism? And I don't believe. I'm not very well versed in it. Yeah, sure. But Metatron in, I think, Judaism is Enoch's angel name he was given once he ascended to heaven, and that's
on the Gnostic side. On the Gnostic side, correct?
Correct. And this all came out last week. Me and my dad were talking about it. He brought it to my attention that and I was explaining that Metatron's an archangel, and I never did any more research. And then we're all sitting on the couch and we're all doing our Googles. We're getting deeper into it. The research I should have done to start. Yeah, but you did. Wait a minute. We had to stop. We had to stop right there. Well, you say you should have done. Where would you? For what purpose would you have had to walk that road?
And with what knowledge would you have walked that road with? And what I mean by that is, this is the filter. This is what we're talking about now. Now it's come up. And I know you said you should have, which I don't want you to beat yourself up for, but how would you have done that? Like in the moment, I don't see that path. And I know you're very, very bright and intelligent person. I know that, but why would you?
And
Because it's just innocent, right? Doesn't mean anything.
when I got it, my meaning was innocent behind all of them. Like
That's right.
my understanding of mandalas was it's like a flower blooming and showing the progression of life and how it gets better as it progresses. It just gets more beautiful, better, so on and so forth.
Can I see it?
All of these are mandalas.
Okay, hold on. We're going to do some real time. Keep talking.
Okay. So
Everybody get up to look.
I have a huge mandala on my shoulder, one on my elbow, one on my forearm, and I have Metatron's cube inside of that with
How do you spell
man, M-A-N-D-A-L-A. So I have a mandala
we're
on my
getting close to Mandrake right there, ain't we?
So I have a mandala on my bicep, shoulder, elbow, one on my forearm. I have Metatron's cube inside that mandala, and then I have a mandala inside of Metatron's cube. So it's very intricate and very weird. And there's another one on my wrist. But my understanding of them were they're flowers. There's layered flowers that just get prettier as it progresses, showing the progression of life and how it gets better.
It's a lotus flower. That's fascinating because that I mentioned the lotus a while ago in my list of flowers. The lotus flower shows up everywhere for a lot of different reasons. And if you run back the lotus flower, you find that it was in Solomon's house and he put it in the temple a lot. And I don't even know if I know you've probably spent most of your time, and I hate to derail, we're going to jump back on the rail in just a moment, but you probably spent a lot of time on the sacred geometry and on the cube. But that lotus flower there, if you really go back and look at the roots and the representation of the lotus flower, it is a fascinating ride. I know I mentioned the flower war a while ago. This is part of it. So if I had to, from what I've seen, and you just brought it in, I didn't even know it. Because I didn't ask you when you come on what you had.
Correct.
I just knew you had them. And I also know where we're going with it in a moment. So when you mentioned that flower, I perked up. And because the three main flowers that seem to be prevalent in all this is, in scripture's the mandrake, but in tattoo world, I don't think anybody's got a man. If you want to know what a mandrake is, ladies and gentlemen, then go look at the magical flower in the Black Panther movie. The one that gives you power, strength, right? That witchcraft stuff. Well, that flower was also used in Genesis 26 for sexual fertility and witchcraft. That's the flower line. But the other two are the rose and the lotus flower, and it's everywhere. Thank you. That's real-time filter work right there, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't know that was coming in. And if anybody wanted to add, you want to add something on the lotus flower?
So, not necessarily the lotus flower, but what I find fascinating is in mythology, a cat is the Mayan deity over tattoos and markings. And
A what? A what? A cat?
A cat, ACAT, is the Mayan deity over.
Oh, a cat, not a cat,
No.
like a feline, a cat.
A cat.
We in the Neshoba County, you can't say a cat.
Yeah,
I'm
well-
sound like an old cat.
Well, I talk like the Neshoba County.
Okay, I got you. Go ahead,
So,
my bad.
Anyway,
I'm looking over here, David, in the Black Panther line going, dude,
yeah.
you got a cat. Okay.
Mayan deity said to be over tattooing and markings, and the mandala flower and its layered patterns are found in Mayan art, particularly in the calendar systems and depictions of the cosmos. For God so
Loved the cosmos,
cosmos.
the world.
fascinating, and I just cannot wait to get into Metatron's cube. But that's just, the flower made me perk up about the Mayan deity over tattooing, so I had to look that up. fascinating.
Absolutely. I'm sorry to derail you there, buddy, but that's what we're
Oh,
doing.
yeah.
That's the work.
Yeah, I came here to get
A real life person brought that in.
better
here.
understanding.
Sure.
100%. When my dad brought it to me and he asked if I was okay with it, 100%.
Yeah.
Because it can only be a positive experience. I want other people to understand like things that I've been through and like my reasonings and things that could be connected.
Where did I've said let's jump back on the sacred geometry and I'm not even is it Metatron?
Metatron.
Like META?
METATRON.
You think that meta thing's got anything to do with this meta social media? It's meta now?
Yeah, there's a good chance.
There's a good chance.
Can I ask, when did you get the tattoo?
It was pre-COVID. I had just quit Porterhouse, so had to be 2019.
So 5 years ago, give or take.
Give or take, it was August of either 2018 or 2019. So 5 years ago.
All right, now I'm going to get personal. How did your life go after you got it?
I'm glad you asked. Because then COVID happens. So at this point in my life, I had just graduated college. I'm living at home. I'm working a couple jobs. You know, we're getting the gym started. So I'm coaching there and I'm loving that. I'm working at Porterhouse some, then I'm working at Prince, and I'm doing a lot of stuff, but I had not started a career. I didn't know where my life was headed. So again, when I got my tattoos, they came in pieces. So the Metatron's Cube was last to be added. So it came in 6 sessions of here, 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 and then filler and then color. So it comes in pieces, and you can almost watch it happen in real time. I was working on these jobs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I started having panic attacks, and so I go to a cardiologist. I get the heart monitor, and I go through that for a while. Doc puts me on antidepressants.
Here comes the mind and mood alterings.
And so when you say that, a lot of people don't grasp.
That, I know.
Antidepressants, to me, numbed the world as a whole.
Yeah.
Nothing mattered. Tomorrow didn't matter. Next week didn't matter. What I was feeling in that moment was nothing. What you felt about me meant nothing. Nothing. It was just so numb to everything. And I was on antidepressants for a long time. While I'm on those antidepressants, I'm trying to figure my stuff out. You know, like I'm hanging out with my buddies. I'm doing whatever. And then I get a phone call from my old boss in Arkansas. And they asked me if I want to move.
For a job?
Mm-hmm. So the past 3 years, I've been bartending in Arkansas. She calls me. She's like, "Hey, I got a job opening if you want it." And because I don't care about tomorrow. I take it on a whim. And you can attest, 2 weeks later, I moved to Arkansas. She called me
To work in a bar.
to bartend. I had bartended before.
But the reason that matters, because everything else you just said, and I want you to keep going, but I got to give the filter as I go. That's what the work is that the goddess of taverns and ale, per Jonathan Kahn, taverns and ale, which is bars and beer. And you get a call out of the blue to go.
After the tattoo?
Get in the microphone, Earl.
So I had the tattoos for a little bit, and
But it's all set in motion.
yeah. So these things start happening kind of in order. As I keep adding on to the tattoos, more stuff starts happening. This whole time I'm on antidepressants, so I'm not really caring about anything. She calls me, asks me if I want to, and I've known this girl for a long, long time.
Right.
And she asked if I want to come work. And, you know, I don't really have anything going on here. So I was like, this is my opportunity to figure stuff out. So I go there, and, you know, I'm good at bartending. I will say that. But the environment that it put me in the lifestyle that it put me in was not conducive for what I needed my life to be.
Do you care to elaborate on some of the lifestyle?
I was drinking way more than I should have. And so a lot of people think it comes with the territory of being a bartender. Like, you serve alcohol, you're going to partake in alcohol, but it gets to a point where it's too much. Like, this was almost, I found a buddy up there and we were going out like every night of the week. I was making good money, So it was nothing for me to just, I worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We'd go out Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, unless I had to work Wednesday, and then back to work Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So this was every single day. And it just started to add up. This is at the same time I started letting myself go. Like, if anyone knows me, they know I've been in the gym for a long time. I was not caring about the gym. I gained
Still on antidepressants too?
still on antidepressants. So, the thing about that is that it almost made the alcohol non-existent. So I would drink even more because I wasn't feeling it, and I wanted to feel something. And then, so I'm letting myself go. I'm gaining a bunch of weight.
Would you call it a cycle?
A vicious cycle. A vicious cycle. It would because I'd look in the mirror, see all the weight I've gained, and then the way I would get rid of that was I'd go drink again. Because I'm like, I don't want to feel sad about myself, so I'll just go drink again. At the same time, I'm adding on to my arm. I'm also, I got my septum pierced. Like, if you look at me now, I have both of my nose rings out and my earrings out. Just out of a respect thing. I just felt like it was more respectful to take all my face jewelry out. But I used to have a chain that went across my nose and a septum ring and dangly earrings, and I was doing the most, and I couldn't tell you why. And then it just kept happening and happening. And I will say this.
Did you just said that. I would stop right there for a moment. I'm asking for your answer, not ours. You said I was doing the most, but I couldn't tell you why. Was there something in you, looking back now, was there something in you that's saying, this is not right, something's off? Or is that, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm not leading you to say yes or no. I just was there ever a lucid, I don't make you sound like you lost your mind, but just a moment where you was like, something's off here, like something's wrong. I don't know if I should be doing this. This is the right road. Just talk through that for a minute.
100%, because like, even people take antidepressants to not be depressed. It's in the name. But I still didn't feel happy. Like, all of this fun that I'm having, all of this hanging out that I'm doing, I'm still not happy. All the piercings I'm getting don't make me happy. At that point, I slowed down on the tattoos for sure, because I finished my arm. I added on the 1996, and then I got my sisters and stuff that. I pulled myself off of antidepressants a little over, or right at a year ago today. I didn't go to see a doctor about it. I did it myself because I reached a point where I was like, I cannot be tied to this anymore, and it's making me feel so awful. And the decisions I'm making while on these is.
Did the antidepressants ever bring about suicidal thoughts? Even if just fleeting, or was it more than that?
Full transparency. I have
hit the eject button anytime.
No. I feel like some people need to know. If anybody knows me who's listening, I got a lot going for me. I've got great parents. They've done more for me than I could ever ask, and I have friends who care and love me. But I've always felt this looming thought, and it's been around since I was 13, 14. You tuck it down and you kind of suck it up, and you live life. Somebody's got it worse. You have no right to feel this, but without them, I wouldn't be here now.
You're saying that without them, you might have already just committed suicide?
100%. I fully believe that.
Where was you? Just so much to ask here. When you found, to take us to the moment to where you reached out for help. Let's walk there before I ask that question.
Okay, so even on antidepressants, the little voice looms, but it's easy to tuck away. I come off antidepressants and I feel better. I really do. I feel better. I feel like myself again. I feel like I can see the world. But at the same time, I'm thinking, okay, now tomorrow matters. And now I have to make plans for the future. I have to figure something out. All this time I'm involved with a girl, and it's rocky. It's on and off and stuff like that. And then
the relationship would cycle. Would you say that?
It's
Good, bad, have good periods and bad periods.
times of just pure bliss, and then it's like
Love and war.
Yeah.
Times of love and love of war.
over and over again. And then it came to a head in August. So
This last
this
August
past
of
August.
24.
August of 24, it came to a head. We had a knockdown drag out over it was a simple misunderstanding on, like, she misunderstood the context of something that had happened and decided that she was done with me. And I've clung to her for so long just to feel that. Like, I was willing to put up with whatever to
Feel something.
feel like I had someone that wasn't a blood relative who actually really cared for me.
Right.
And that night I had a full episode, a full panic attack. I'm driving around Fayetteville. I can't see. I'm just speeding around. My roommates are calling me, trying to get me to come home because they're worried about me. And I'm losing it. I call my little sister. She had been someone that I had been in contact with, just so I had someone who I knew wouldn't judge me on how I felt. And
So now the panic attacks have come back.
yes, so
That takes us back to what happened after the initial tattoo. That takes us back to the beginning of the story.
and a weird thing I haven't, it could be a connection, it could not be. I finished my arm, fully finished my arm, either August, September. It was either August or September of the year that I met her, I met her in end of October. So I had just finished my arm, and then like a month later, I meet her, and then we start being entangled. So this has been going on for like 2 years.
What did she introduce into your life when she came? Looking back.
Her herself didn't introduce anything that I wasn't already exposed to. Like, she didn't bring anything new. She made me feel
Did your roommates, did they expose you to anything?
they did indeed. So,
Okay.
so my roommates are, I've since moved out. I'm home now. I'm trying to figure out my next moves in life. But they are, just full disclosure, they are lesbian females who are extremely and deeply into astrology.
So you're living there as a roommate with them.
Yes. So
Was that the first time you was really introduced to astrology?
like growing up, it
at
was
a deep
at
level.
a deep level, 100%. You know, you see people talk about their horoscopes and what sign are you and stuff like that, and you see that all the time. But getting there, they took it to a much deeper level. It was never something I really like gave the time of day until things started happening in my life that I needed understanding for.
And you started looking for light too.
I was looking for any answer that could explain why I felt the way I felt and why things in my life were happening the way they were. So, to give a background on, so when I turned 27 that summer, I'm going through a really rough patch, and life's kind of falling apart for me. From the outside, everything looks okay. I'm not letting anybody in. I'm not letting anybody see me fall, but on the inside, I'm falling apart. And my roommate tried to explain it to me that, this is all astrology stuff that she has taught me, is that, I was born January 10th. That makes me a Capricorn. In astrology, a Capricorn reaches something called a Saturn's return at the age of 27. This is where life.
Hey, wait, say that in the microphone real good for again.
So in astrology, if you're a Capricorn, you turn 27 years old, you enter what's called a Saturn's return.
Rim fan. Go ahead.
So Saturn's return is where life starts pulling things away from you that you don't need to show you what you do need. So at this point, life's taking a lot of stuff from me, or in my head it is. And then I'm trying to, in my head it makes sense. You know, like I'm so far away from
And
home.
Saturn's also the 10th, is the ruling planet of the 10th house of astrology,
It's
which is
also-
about you.
And it's also the ruling planet of Capricorn.
Okay.
This is all, so I'm battling this. I'm trying to decide if I want to go down this route, and like I'm trying to make sense of things that are happening. And she's telling me that, like, you know, Capricorns are ruled, like one of their ruling body parts is their teeth, and that's just an astrology thing. That summer,
Their
while I'm going
teeth?
through their teeth. So when I'm sitting at I'm at the fair, actually, and we're just walking around having a good time, and I'm eating a chicken on a stick, and my tooth breaks. My tooth just breaks out of nowhere. Like, I've always had really good teeth. I've never had a problem with them, and it just, like, I didn't bite the stick. I was eating chicken, and my tooth breaks. So in my head, I make that instant connection of the things that she has told me, because I had not heard otherwise. So she says, you know, Capricorns are ruled by their teeth. You're in your Saturn's return. Life's taking things away from you. You have to understand that, like, things that are being taken now will show you what you really need. So I'm grasping to this stuff, just trying to get an understanding. And like, this is before I'd ever heard anything about the spiritual side of anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
I got you.
And so I will say this: when that Christmas, while I'm getting the tattoos with my sisters,
I've been waiting on this one. I know this, and I've been waiting on you to get there because it's man. Go ahead.
So I know a lot of people back in Arkansas who have a lot of astrological tattoos. I know a girl who has every house planet on her fingers, and she has her Libra symbol in her neck. So I'll let slip to my mom at the tattoo shop that I'm thinking I'm gonna get the glyph for Saturn, like in where my chest meets into my neck. And she kind of looked at me weird, and she's like, "I'd rather you didn't do that." And it's my mom. I'm not gonna ever question her. She don't want me to get it. I didn't ask why.
But she knew something you didn't.
She knew something I
said
didn't.
it,
And
yeah.
she went into it. She
Yeah.
she said, and this was,
So you were going to get a big tattoo on the upper chest, lower throat of Saturn.
probably the size of a quarter, right
Okay,
here.
not that big.
The listeners can't see, but right here in just this little gap. I had seen the placement before. I liked it, and the things that I'm connecting with astrology that the people that I'm living with are telling me, I'm making those connections. I'm like, it would look cool. I'm not making any kind of other connections there. But I could tell with my mom's reaction how, like, she didn't hide her reaction at all. She didn't say, "Oh yeah, that." No, it was immediate. Like, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that. And she's like, your daddy and Adrian have been doing research into, like, the gods in the Bible, trying to get a deeper understanding of where, like, the darkness comes from and where their roots are. And
I think the listener needs to know this, that as long as I've pastored the Alexander family, me and you have been the most distant of all of them.
100%.
We have had this is the most interaction that me and you have had in the history of your family coming to church.
I agree. And a lot of it is my fault. We started going when I was in high school.
No, we don't want to talk.
Yeah. We got to go into that.
We don't have to do that. I'm just saying from the listener's point of view, what were the God filter, all of this, it matters. And so walk the road, because you're fixing to tell us how much it mattered. But go ahead.
Yeah,
I just wanted to kind of paint that picture that me and you ain't exactly been at odds, but we've not been best friends either.
Correct. It was, if it would have been anyone else telling me not to get that tattoo, other than my mom or my dad, I would have gotten that tattoo. I would have got it the next week. I would have finished. I added some stuff to my shoulder and my neck. It's just some hexagons and some shapes. Just, but I definitely would have got that. But because she stopped me, I didn't do it. And then, life keeps happening. I pull myself off antidepressants. I think things are okay. I think things are getting better. But I'm in this cyclical relationship where things just kind of come to a head. And then I got into such a dark point that my dad and sister had to drive 8 hours through the night to just sit with me.
Yeah, I know. I think I asked if you wanted me to go with you. And I'm looking back, I'm not real sure if that would have been helpful. at the time, nothing like family, and very wise. But I sat on pins and needles for 2 days.
Yeah, it was tough because the night everything happened, like I walked into my house. My roommate gave me a cold compress to like calm me down. I gave her my gun and told her I can't have this. I can't be in possession of this in the mental state that I'm in right now. And she kept it I told her you give it back when you think I am okay enough to have it again, but I want you to just keep it. I don't need it. I'm just going to work. I'm going to live life. We're going to be okay. Hold on to this. And when they came, he gave me an explanation of like some of the root causes of why things are happening.
Right.
Why
That was just the filter work, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
he broke it down for me of the connections, and everything started making more sense. He showed me scriptures because I brought up the tooth thing, and he showed me there was a scripture talking about and break their teeth. Something.
Yeah, and they bit Stephen. After he called him out on Remphan, which is Saturn, by the way, it translates to Saturn. So there's teeth actually in Scripture directly connected to Saturn, Acts 7:43, which has birthed his whole line. That's just it's a whole fascinating ride conversation right there in itself. How did it? Let me ask you this, because I know after that you begin to listen to the episodes and stuff. Because I do want to get to Brittany in a moment, and I'm not, listener, thank you for hanging in there. You might have to break this up, but I'm not cutting this short. I'm not cutting it short, and I'm not rushing for the sake of time. What did you be? What began to change as you? Because I know you. From what I understand, you binge listened. You binge listened all the episodes.
I did.
I know you hit suicide, hit some of the high points. What began to shift? And obviously, you come home. But what began to shift and change in your mind internally? In that question we ask of who do you serve? What began to change? If you just share there for a few minutes there.
I knew because once they left, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back left to my own devices. I'm trying to figure it out. They stayed very on top of things. So after that, we started a weekly Bible study to get deeper into things. And
We as in you and your family, like on the phone, FaceTime,
we
stuff
would
like
FaceTime,
that. Okay.
like Gracie Anna's at college and she would FaceTime in. I'd FaceTime from Arkansas. Every Tuesday we would have like an hour Bible study about
The spirit world.
the spirit world. That helped. I started reading my Bible daily, just kind of noting down things that how I feel during the day, and trying to like. And I felt much better getting I found my reason why, the light that I had been looking for so long of why, like outside looking in, I have a pretty cozy life. If you've ever known me growing up, I have always been the funny, happy guy who I'll light up a room, I'll talk to anybody, I'll be nice to anybody, I'll make sure you're having a good time. No, I never let anyone see the stuff that goes on in my head. And I got to a point where I realized I needed to let people know stuff like that, that people do care, and that there are maybe decisions I've made, not knowing the repercussions that could have came from them.
Did you look back at any of your decisions and realize that you were under the influence of the spirit world that not even knowing?
I think more about it every day.
Do you see with those eyes now, though? Is that something that now every day you just kind of see it through that lens now, that we indeed are not wrestling with flesh and blood?
Yeah, people are one thing. I can handle people. I've bartended mass volumes of people for years, and that's not a problem for me. It's when I'm by myself and I hear these things, these thoughts, these voices of just, you're not good enough. You won't be. You're not deserving. You're not worthy. It's those times when I need it the most. And it's gotten a lot better. I've been home a while now. I'm surrounded by my family all the time. I'm still trying to figure things out, but things are getting a lot better.
Feel better every day? As far as anxiety and depression, it doesn't.
A little bit better every day.
Are you deciding who you serve? And I don't mean that to be some little cheap Christian cliche. I mean, like, as you look around at what you know, what you heard, what you saw, do you get up every day and see it in a different lens of,
100%. And looking back, I can tell you, I can tell you who I served the years I'm bartending. I mean,
are you saying that you were serving them looking back?
I was serving them
with them is the gods, ladies and gentlemen, the spirit world.
The life I was living, the environment that I had myself in, the influences I had were not in the moment. It's fun, like you're having a good time, but then that's
the lie.
That's the lie. When you're around a bunch
the father of lies, that's the lie.
When you're around a bunch of people, things are fun.
And them lights go out by yourself.
When you're at home alone, when you look in a mirror and you can't do it,
yeah,
that's when things get tough.
Josh, you want to add anything else before I transition?
No, I think I covered most.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for you coming in here and speaking from the bottom of your heart. I appreciate that.
I appreciate the opportunity.
And I appreciate the work and the effort that this is going to do to help somebody. And when I sign off, I'm going to give all three of our guests, ladies and gentlemen, that's a ride. But I got a feeling that our sister Brittany's fixing to take us on another one. So go get you something to drink or bookmark it here when you get off work, going on the way home. Listen to the rest of it. Josh, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Brittany, come on. How you doing?
I'm good.
We've been on each other for a while, haven't we?
We have.
And there's been some bumps in the roads. Look, Brittany, you've sitting here. I saved you for last. I know ladies are supposed to go first, but you were the first person that I thought of when doing this and bringing guests on. Was you not, Robert?
That is correct.
You were the first person. One, we briefly touched on this a few times in passing when I spoke at Robert Daniels' place. Of course, you've been coming to church here for a long time, stuck in cycles.
Right.
That's fair. And that night when I came and laid all this out at his place and I hit the tattoo line there, it was like, while some were in shock, you lit up with, oh my, like in a good way, not a bad way. And in the world of tattoos, our witness, because I've seen the tattoos. We're going to talk about them in a minute. Everything that I mentioned, you have, basically.
Pretty
everything.
much.
Josh took us to some places that I didn't mention. Robert took us to some places I didn't mention. But what I mentioned, you have. And it was like this bearing witness of, I got my answer now. I have an answer for why I have been stuck in this cycle. So obviously it's about tattoos. I know you're a little nervous. It's okay. But I also wanted you to go last to build confidence in what everybody else and to see that you're in a good, safe place. Tell us a little bit about your tattoos. And I know that's a ride in itself.
It is. I actually have, I have 20 tattoos in all. My very first one was actually, I was 11. It is a Playboy bunny.
I'm going to interject filter stuff as we go. Because the children in the temple are always the target.
Absolutely. I actually feel like I was a target from younger.
And I'm sorry. I do think the listener should know that she is all in on the filter. She
Absolutely.
is well versed with what's going on in this room. So
Absolutely.
I'll try to be quiet now. Again, go ahead.
Well, the first one was, like I said, Playboy bunny. I was 11 years old. And then from there, my life just kind of spiraled. I was addicted to pain pills by the time I was 13, and I don't know, my life was it just went from there. And I feel like the very first tattoo was my very first influence. I have a tattoo of a crescent moon on my left leg, and I have a tattoo of like a Mayan sun on my right leg.
So there's the sun and the moon, because Baal and Ashtoreth always together.
Right.
And that's the first one I told about that tattoo on the chest. There was one side had the moon, one side had the sun. In every civilization and in the Bible, they walk together. And now you have them together on each leg. Is that
Right.
Mayan.
Oh, there's the Mayan. Yeah. We'll hit the Mayan. I think we're going to make our way to the Mayan in just a moment. That word keeps coming up though, don't it? Go ahead.
On my forearm, I have a horoscope of my Virgo sign. In that is my element and my star constellation, of course, with the arrow. On my hand, I have a flower with the one C and I in the middle.
The flower. Let's see the flower. That's a lotus flower.
It's a lotus. I have the mandolin thing, the right here with the heart on it, and then the crescent moon and another sun with the stars. Right beside it, I have the word karma.
There's that's going to take us to Hinduism.
Right. On my chest, I have a tattoo of a anchor with birds, and it says, "I refuse to sink."
Birds.
Birds.
Running the road, running it with you. Birds and you've heard it all. Birds and four-footed beast. Don't get secondhand embarrassed from her. She's delivered and free. I'll cover that in a moment. Well, I can speak freely with. That's why I wanted her to go last, because if there's anybody out of the three guests I can speak freely with, it's this one, because she is an embodiment of everything I've been fighting for personally. Go ahead.
Let's see. On my right arm, I have just an open heart. Really didn't have any meaning. I'm so sorry. I've been fighting a
That's
cold
okay.
for 2
That's
weeks.
all right. We real time.
There's no meaning really behind it when I got it. It's just kind of a heart. I have a lotus flower on my foot. On my back, I have peace signs. The fingers holding up peace signs. Half peace sign, half yin yang. Really, none of my tattoos at the moment I thought really meant much of anything, but just the way they looked. I have.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. No, you're still doing tattoos. Go ahead. I was just going to ask a question. You can wait.
Now I have a few tattoos that I've gotten recently. After finding out about the influences and all that are. This one is a cross with like a hand pulling a hand out of the dark. This one right here says, "But God." It's got a semicolon, which means my story isn't over and it didn't end. And it says, "But God," with a cross. So those two right there, they came after figuring out what y'all have been talking about on the podcast.
So let me ask you this. After listening to all the podcasts, all the sermons, because Brittany is going to be at church on Sundays now, for sure, and has cycled in and out
I have.
for years of the church and avoided me like the plague,
I sure did.
which was phenomenal when we sorted that out. Because I'm the spirit world, I'm probably the last person they wanted you to be around. They wanted you to stay with those old circles, those old things. As you listen to the sermons, the podcast, as you listen to the people in this room, where does your mind go about the deeds of the gods and not just the signatures? Would you, I'll ask you like I asked Robert, would you call them signatures, brands? Would you say that's what they are now looking back? That's what they were?
Absolutely. In a sense, I feel like I try to look at it as a way of me figuring out why I was the way that I was. Growing up, I knew that there was something wrong with me. I just couldn't figure out why. I was full of anxiety from as young as I can remember. I was scared of my mom passing away. I was scared of asteroids destroying the earth, and I was just fear driven. And I couldn't figure out, and there was something in me that I wanted out, and I just couldn't figure out what.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with myself. I never felt good enough. And I had a great family. I mean, I had a great mom and dad for the most part. They loved me, so it wasn't slacking in that area. I don't know. I can't explain.
Do you remember where the attachment point of all this might be?
I'm going to say around the age of about 12 when I got that first tattoo.
Really?
Yes.
Listen, that wasn't a loaded question. We got no script in front
No,
of us.
and it took me a minute to think about that too, because, and I mean, now looking back at what the tattoo actually is, it makes lots of sense.
Right.
Hmm.
So what about, don't want you to go nowhere you don't want to.
Mm.
You know, you can hit the eject. You've already done a tremendous job just in what you said. What pathway did you walk, even past the 12? Where did it take you? Where did these things influence you to go, knowing or unknowing?
Well, like I said, I was addicted to pain pills by the time I was 13. I had a friend that had a hip replacement, and she got prescribed, narcotics, pain pills or whatever. And so I started taking them, playing around with them, and it went from there. By the age of 16, I was a mom. I got pregnant at 15 and I had a child at 16. My life was just it was a mess as far as drug addiction, man addiction, more addiction. It didn't matter what it was. It was an addiction for me.
More.
More.
We heard that word tonight.
I was addicted to more.
More.
Hmm.
Yeah. We have. Go ahead.
I had no idea actually I was being influenced by anything. I just knew that there was something, there were voices in me that told me that, I was not good enough and I would never be nothing but stuck in this cycle of I'm crazy and I don't know why. I don't know. My life just spiraled. It was just a mess.
And so we could, and the tattoos that you would just randomly get. You don't even know why. You just walk and say, "Oh, I like that one."
Yep. No, I actually had no idea.
reason at all, no plan or nothing. Just
no.
And they just so happened to tell the story
Mm-hmm.
of everything in every direction that your life went.
Yep, absolutely. Actually, I got sober.
Just coincidence, huh?
Yes.
Looking back now, what do you think of that line? Me saying
was
that just coincidence.
Definitely influenced. If I look back at every time that I got a tattoo and looking at my life at that time, it was definitely an influence.
Wow.
Definitely.
Anything else you want to share? Anything you plan to say that you hadn't? Maybe I didn't take you to. That you want to say?
I actually want to share.
The microphone is yours right now.
Okay. I'm a little nervous. I don't.
That's all right. But I don't want you to miss something you want to get out.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want you to say something. I don't want you to feel pressured to say anything that you're not comfortable saying.
Mm-hmm. I can share when I actually got sober in 2015. Sober, not saved, by the way.
That's a great line because you can
Yes.
you can be free from drugs and alcohol and still not serve the Lord and be lost.
Absolutely.
Thank you for saying that.
I always thought that if I could just get off the drugs and get off the alcohol and do right, that my life would fall into place, and that was not the case. I got sober, but I was still a wreck. Those voices in me that told me I would never be good enough or amount to nothing was still there. So anyway, I got in church around that time and came back and really wanted to focus on God, and He blessed me with all these things, but then I veered off and I forgot Him.
Cycled back.
I cycled back.
Amnesia.
Absolutely.
All 9
And
yards.
that is going to be around the time that I got this tattoo of the Virgo sign. I started going back to bars. I started
What's the chief
partying.
planet of Virgo?
Mercury.
Mercury.
Hmm.
It is the only constellation that's involved with a woman.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Hmm. It is.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I started dabbing in alcohol. I wasn't doing drugs, but alcohol seemed to be okay with everybody as long as I wasn't, acting crazy on anything else. I could drink a little bit and be normal.
Bars and beer.
Right. So that's around that time I got that tattoo. So I fell backwards, and then I started getting I got the sun and the moon on my leg. And the partying got heavier and the drinking. And by this time, God was nowhere in my life. So my life was a mess, again, just in a different way. So one night in July of this year, I was in my bathroom floor, and I don't know, I just come home from a bar, and he just broke me down. I broke down, and I can't tell you why I broke down. But I broke down, and right then I made up in my mind that I would never touch alcohol again. But I believe I was influenced to do that.
How much easier it is for you to look at that world that you pretty much grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
You said 13 is when you started your addiction.
Mm-hmm.
12 is when you got the tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
How much easier is it for you to look at that world now, see it and understand it, not just the fleshly realm, but in the spirit realm? And because you can, now you can overcome it with a lot easier than you have been able to for the majority of life. Is that fair? Is it not fair? Do you still have your days, or is it just better now because you actually know what you were fighting?
Right. Yeah, I know what I'm fighting now. It doesn't catch me off guard. So when those voices come back, because they will come back, I can shut them down now, with the help of Jesus, of course. But
no, you went from God to the name right there.
Right.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because God wrapped himself in flesh, but he gave himself a name
right.
that is above every name. And so the way even you there just transitioned from, because a while ago you said God was nowhere in my life,
mm-hmm.
but when you got ready to talk to the spirit world, you used the name.
Right.
Ooh, that was worth my time just to watch that unfold.
Right.
Go ahead. I don't know where you were, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had to get that one in.
I forgot where I was too now. But
you said it was easier to overcome because now you know the trick, you know the device.
Yes.
And you were able to break the cycle.
Right.
Because you know what you're fighting.
Because I know, and I can see it coming now. By feelings, and of course I'm new to this. I'm still learning. I think I listened to your podcast for the first time maybe back January of last year, maybe. Mm-hmm. No, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Probably about August of last year, I listened to your first podcast, and it was on suicide and addiction part 2.
Yeah.
And I was in my mail truck, and I believe somewhere in there, maybe, I don't know, I binge listened that day, but on one of them, they started talking, y'all started talking about the tattoos, and I believe you had somebody in here talking about her tattoo. Maybe what she had on her or something.
You was talking on the mic about an experience, like you.
Yeah, she wasn't in here, but I was just telling the story.
Right.
Perhaps probably one of the ones I shared a while ago in an ambiguous manner.
Okay, well, I remember
in fact,
the
I'm
feeling.
certain of it now. Go ahead.
Okay, I remember the feeling. I had pulled up to a mailbox, and I was just listening to that, and I was like, wow, this is what's been going on my entire life right here. I don't know, it's amazing to me because I've been fighting this for a very long time, and now I have freedom. Now I can find freedom.
And you feel like when it comes back, and it will, you're right.
It is going to.
You can, for lack of a better term, whip it.
Right.
No, let's use the word whoop.
Whoop it.
We're in the Neshoba County. We don't whip anything. We whoop stuff.
We'll spank it.
You feel like you're well equipped and armed now.
Yes.
Spiritually, through scripture, through word, through information, through understanding of the spirit world.
Right.
You want to add anything else before I get you out of here?
I think I'm good.
I want to thank you so much for coming. So much for the courage to say what you said. I know you could have said a lot more, and that's cool. I want you to be comfortable, but you helped us help the people.
Right.
You helped the people. How many Brittany's do you think are out there right now? More than
probably a lot.
More than we can count. Mm-hmm. And so, just bring that to be able to bring that understanding to them. Phenomenal. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm going to close this out real quick. I know we're going a little long, Ladies and gentlemen, this has nothing to do with are two tattoos right or wrong. This has been about what is already and the great trick that has been played on so many people. Are there people out there that have tattoos that have faced none of the things that you heard tonight? Sure. Are there more people out there that have them all, that the gods have signed their life, and if you put a microphone in front of them, they'll tell you, yeah, you just heard that in earnest. And ladies and gentlemen, what you just heard in earnest, numbers-wise, is the tip of the iceberg from what I've heard personally. I wouldn't say this stuff in a microphone if I didn't have a good sample of humanity under my belt. And I send you all the messages as they come. And do with it what you want. If you want to get on, oh, they're talking about tattoos, this and that. No. We're talking about the spirit world, how to see it, how to understand it. Robert, you going to say something? Okay, so I'm gonna start. No, I'm not. I'm going to ask for any, and I don't have a lot of final remarks because we can't follow that. Robert, you got any final remarks?
Just thank you to our guest, to our listeners. Know that our heart is for you. We love you. And our fight is 100% for the darkness.
Brother David, you got any final remarks?
Yeah, I want to thank the three for sharing their stories. And like Brother Robert saying, this is knowledge. It is not downing tattoos, making them right or wrong. It is telling people stories that is happening to people that we walk beside every day, people you work with, people you talk to. These type of situations are happening all around us. And as Brother Adrian preached a few weeks ago, as watchmen, when we know this knowledge and we don't share it with those that are fighting, that's what we're here for. We've got to fight. We got to help people fight. We got to share the knowledge. We got to share this information, and praise Jesus.
Praise Jesus. Earl, any closing remarks?
I'd like to thank everybody for coming in. That's amazing to sit here and talk to everybody and listen to everybody's story. Can I end with that text I sent y'all earlier today?
Go.
As humans, we are all the same on the outside. There are distinguishable attributes that make us male from female, color of our eyes, facial hair, and the such. But there's really nothing on the outside that gives any depth to our character. Tattooing, branding, cutting, or piercings are a medium for that. To pull from what is on the inside and to lay that out for everyone to see. That's a quote I found today. My question for that is what are we laying out for the world? What is the possibility that what we are going to portray is not really from us, but from something else?
Okay. I tell this to everybody that sits in this office with multiple tattoos, that have a past, that have hurt, that have suicidal thoughts, that have addictions. Their first inclination with me, I don't look like them in the tattoo area. I don't look like y'all. I have them. Can't even speak to the conversation. So there's always a little apprehension. Maybe just a little cover up here, just a little awkwardness. And I always tell them, okay, so you were molested as a child. So you haven't had an addiction. So you went down to some dark places. I said, do me a favor. And then I show them the tattoos and they're just mind blown, just like you just heard. And then I look at them and I give them a piece of advice. And I'm going to give everybody in this room a piece of advice. Don't run, go get them covered up. Don't go get them lasered off. What once served on your body as a representation of them can now serve you every day when you get up and you look at it and go, I'm not falling for that again. I'm not falling for that trick again. You got me one time, but every time I see this, it's a reminder that you will never get me again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not about the tattoo. It is about one thing. Who do you serve? We love you guys. God bless.